first ever episode of Marshall Does a Podcast. This is a special offshoot of Ben and Marshall Does a Podcast. What? No, Ben and Marshall Do a Podcast, the official podcast that the Great Scub do. This is the show where I forgot that it was an episode day tomorrow, or today rather, for you listening, unless you're listening after tomorrow, in which case, whenever you are listening to it, I forgot that an episode had to go up. So here I am, and scrambling, and trying to think, crap, what do I do for an episode? I don't get off work until 10:30. Herbal goes to bed because it's a school night. I need to do something. I went through a few ideas. It occurred to me that it was going to be late, so I didn't want to stay up too late either. I didn't want to do a ton of editing. So I was trying to think of things that I wouldn't have to edit much. So my first thought was, well, what movie could I talk about that I'm really passionate about? Didn't think of anything. Felt like that would work better with two people. Then I thought, what if I read an entire screenplay and act the entire thing out? For a solid 15 minutes was really dead set on reading all of The Dark Knight, and stage directions and all, and like acting all the different parts and everything. And I thought that would be funny. Just do my first take, no cuts or anything. I didn't do that. Eventually, I settled on what we are about to do. We're going to go on a little journey together. I put out some questions, or one question rather, asking you guys to send me questions. So then I will answer your questions. I'm doing a sort of an Ask Me Anything, generally, within the realm of film and comics and stuff like that. But I will answer any question. I have not screened pretty much any of these questions ahead of time. But here we go. It's 12 a.m. It is officially Tuesday. This goes up in 6 hours, or rather 7 hours and 55 minutes. No, 5 hours and 55 minutes. This is already going really well. And let's just settle in. I'm gonna put a little bit of soundscape, maybe like a grandfather clock and like a fire in the background. Like imagine we're in the cigar lounge together, drinking whatever you prefer. I have a cup of hot chocolate here, and that's really luxury and dignified. Here, I'm gonna drink it. That's 10. All right, folks. Well, I asked you for questions. You gave me some questions. I have some audio questions, which I will edit into the show, and I have some text questions. I'm going to start with the text questions, and then we will get to the audio. So first, I have got from Pezarama, fantastic artist on Instagram. Check him out, Pezarama. He doesn't stream on Twitch. He uses some other platform that I can't remember what it's called, but you can watch that if you want to. You should probably just watch my streams on twitch.tv/mparish_art. But you can, I guess, watch Pez's stuff if you want to, if you really have to. But Pez has a few questions. He says, top 3 comic books, arcs count as 1. Top 3 comic creators, any era. Favorite Nolan movie, Christopher Nolan, that is. And then yes or no, is Inception the perfect movie? And there's an addendum to that we'll get to. So this is kind of tough. Top 3 comic books and arcs are included. I think I know what my number 1 is. I haven't gone back to read it in a very, very long time, so I don't know if it holds up for me. But I will say, before I start talking about that one, the Tom King, and this probably goes with comic creators as well. These are probably going to go hand in hand, more or less. But Tom King's Mr. Miracle is one of my favorite books. I love the New Gods, DC's New Gods, and how weird and wacky they are. I love all the crazy Jack Kirby stuff because they're just so silly and comic booky, but in the hands of the right writer, huge and epic and interesting and really, really deep. And I feel like over time, since Kirby created them, they weren't just goofy characters ever, I don't think, but they've gotten more depth and more mature over time. Darkseid, of course, being the one that everyone would know more than the rest. But Tom King's Mr. Miracle is probably my favorite graphic novel of all time. If I had to, off the top of my head, let me take a couple seconds to look at my bookshelf. Yeah. I think that holds up. I'll say specifically then, just in case I think of something else, I would say it's definitely my favorite DC graphic novel of all time. I love Mr. Miracle. Tom King and Mitch Gerads. Gerads' art is incredible and fits the story very well. And he just takes this character and brings him to this whole other level of depth and also realism. Like, the dialogue is very real, and you really feel these characters and their lives that they're living, and it just feels normal somehow, even though they're fighting this war on two fronts, and it's just this massive epic science fiction story, but it doesn't overwhelm with its largeness. Like, it feels very small in the way that the focus is very much on Scott and Barda. And I don't want to spoil any of the big twists or anything, because it's really a fantastic read. It's a really good book, and everyone should read it. Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerads. What else? The top 3 comic book or arcs. Oh, man. Invincible is definitely it will have to be on there. Invincible. You know what? I'm going to say that Invincible is actually my favorite. I'm going to backtrack on what I had said before about what I'm going to say, at least. But Invincible, I think, is my favorite comic book of all time. It, again, it starts out in a very small story. Like, it's basically Sky High at the beginning. It's Mark Grayson. It's an independent book. It's not Marvel or DC. It's in its own universe, written by Robert Kirkman, who created the Walking Dead comic book and, then the TV series, as well as other things. He's done a lot of different comics. These are his 2 most well-known, I would say. But he wrote this book, art originally by Cory Walker, and then transitioned into Ryan Ottley, who then went on to do the most of the rest of the series. It starts out as this kind of Sky High-like thing where Mark Grayson is the main character. He's a teenager, and his dad is basically the Superman of this universe. He's super powerful, and he is this huge beacon to everyone in the world. And Mark doesn't have his powers yet. And he's just waiting to get his powers, and he's trying to just navigate life and this family life without his powers, and it's really frustrating for him. And then he gets them, and it's all exciting and cool. And it just becomes this story about superheroes, but the family part of it, which has never really been done to the level, I would say, that Invincible did it so well. I mean, the Fantastic Four are called Marvel's first family, but it's not like this, where it's like, this is his actual nuclear family, like his mom and dad. And it's just so good. And it starts out as one thing, and then by the 11th issue, oh boy, what a change, what a crazy twist, what a heel turn the series takes, and it just is a nonstop ride all the way through. It's a really fast-paced book, too, which is really, really cool, especially for an independent book. Can sometimes drag on because, authors can get a bit more vain than you would like, and kind of just get a little self-serving. But Kirkman's writing is, I think, at its best in Invincible, way more so than The Walking Dead, which is also great. The comic, not the TV show. TV show started great and really went downhill. But I would highly suggest Invincible, especially now that it's being adapted as a cartoon, an animated series on Amazon Prime. First 3 episodes are out, and it's really, really good. I will say, that crazy heel turn, I say it's like Sky High. It's like if Sky High was rated R. So this is not a book or a show to give to your kids. It is violent as all get out, but really, really good. It stalls a little bit when he gets the blue suit, but it gets really good, and it finishes out really well as well. My third one is not Tom King. What's his name? You know it. You all know it. Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder's Batman run, the New 52 Batman. This series is what got me into reading comics. I was probably like 14 or 15, I always like watched all the cartoons and I was always drawing and stuff like that. I loved all the movies, but I never really started reading the books until I was like 13 or 14, I would say. And I started getting the Batman books, just anything from the library. And eventually I found the New 52 run of Batman in the trade paperback section. And I was just blown away by Greg Capullo's art. Probably still my favorite Batman artist of all time. Him or Sean Gordon Murphy. Oh man, I'd love to see Capullo draw Sean Murphy's his design. That'd be insane. But it starts out in this incredible, really cool story of Batman and Bruce Wayne is doing this whole rebuilding project, and he's building this new area of the city and everything, and he's talking about how like no one knows the city as well as him, and it's been his place, and it's all Gotham City is Batman, and that's great. So why do I love Gotham City? This is why. And throughout that arc, you get to a point where he realizes there's this secret society that has been running Gotham City behind the scenes for forever. And it's this massive revelation, and they're called the Court of Owls, and they've become one of the main Batman, big bads. And they've never been utilized as well as they have in that first arc, but man, it's really good, and it doesn't stop being good. Even when another character becomes Batman for a little bit, it's still really good. And I don't know if Greg Capullo has ever done better work. It's fantastic. So that's what that is. Favorite Christopher Nolan movie? That's tough. Well, I don't know how tough it is. I think it's probably between Inception and Batman Begins. I love Batman Begins. People give The Dark Knight a lot of credit. I think it's great. I think it's more of a villain movie than it is of a Batman movie, which is kind of the way that Batman goes a lot of the time. But I really love Batman Begins and the way that it does the origin story. I really love origin stories when they're done well, I think is what I've discovered. Because the same thing with Superman 78. My favorite part of that movie is all of the stuff before he becomes Superman. I still love the rest of the movie, but I really love everything up to that point. All the little world building we get on Krypton before the world building gets blown up, because so does Krypton. I love all the Smallville stuff, his talk with Pa Kent. And it's the same thing in Batman Begins. I don't think it's until the 40-ish minute mark until Batman actually shows up and does, he pulls the guy out of the car and goes, "I'm Batman." And, it's so good because they've built up the character up to that point. You've gotten to see him at his lowest of lows. He was going to kill Joe Chill, and then he makes this conviction not to kill. You get to see him make that decision. It's not just the promise of an 8-year-old boy. It's reaffirmed in him. And I really love that, and I love that you get to see that in him. And then when he becomes Batman, I feel like it's so much more impactful for that reason. Yeah, it's great. I don't know that Liam Neeson is as strong of a villain, certainly, as Heath Ledger is the Joker. Certainly not as Ra's al Ghul. And it is Ra's al Ghul, by the way. It is not Ra's. For someone like Christopher Nolan, who does as much intense research and is as passionate about his projects, I'm blown away that they got that simple thing wrong. It's Ra's al Ghul. It is not Ra's al Ghul. That is not a thing. Makes me so angry. Really frustrated about that, but it's fine. Time to drink hot chocolate. Hold on. I'm probably not going to edit all those little sips out, so sorry about the noises if you get any of those. And then the final question from Pez is, yes or no, is Inception the perfect movie? If yes, high five. If no, have you been insane your whole life, or is this a recent development? This is a tough one. I think that Inception is a perfect movie, certainly. I don't know that I think it is the perfect movie. I'm not entirely sure what that constitutes for me. I have said previously on the show that I think that the Grand Budapest Hotel is a perfect movie. I don't know that I think either of these are the perfect movie. I would also, I think that Batman Begins is a perfect movie. I think it's fantastic. Oh, man. It's not the perfect movie. It is certainly a perfect movie. We're close. That was you're almost on track. I love you, Pez. Thanks for the questions. Keep making those little small people in your art. It's fun, and I like it. Here's a big question. Oh, man. I'm going to get the audio questions eventually, but I want to get through these text ones first. Here we go. This is from Aaron, Febcoda on Instagram. Good friend of mine, fantastic artist. Love their stuff. So, here we go. This is what they said. Do you think there's a reasonable chance for DC to organize a film universe the way Marvel has, or have the Snyderverse films, as well as the mediocre reaction to Wonder Woman 84, soured audiences' interest in these characters/worlds? There's kind of two questions here. I'll start with that one. I think that there's I think anything's possible. I think if this is what they want to do, then they could absolutely do that. What I believe at this point, though, is that they're not really trying too hard to develop a universe like Marvel. Not like Marvel, but in the way that Marvel has. In the way that Marvel has a shared universe like that. DC has a long storied history of graphic novels, of Elseworld stories that Marvel doesn't necessarily have. Marvel has certainly large story arcs that have been compiled into into trade paperbacks, like the Infinity War saga, Infinity Gauntlet, Secret Wars, all this stuff. But, and DC has the same thing, all the event books, that kind of stuff. But DC, I think more so than Marvel, has branched out a lot into these kind of standalone books, these Elseworld stories, where they'll just give a creator free reign to make something. And I feel like that has also been kind of the way that Warner Brothers as an organization has kind of worked throughout history, as they've said, this is a project, this creator can do it, and we want them to do it the way they're going to do it. The reaction to a lot of the Snyder stuff kind of has created problems with that, where they've been way more involved, and because I think they did want to make initially, clearly, this connected universe. And because of that, the way that these movies were received and that the critics received them, less so the fans, I would say, caused Warner Brothers and to a lesser extent DC to say, hey, let's take a step back, let's kind of reevaluate all this and get their hands on a bit more. Which, to do something like that, you have to. Like, Marvel is so involved in the stuff that they do. They previs movies almost entirely before it even comes out. Like, it's crazy how the story groups have created so much of a movie before they even have a director on board half the time. And certainly the directors have a lot of free reign, and it's moving more that direction now that Marvel is so established. They are getting more wacky with it, more open with it. But it's still way, way planned out ahead of time. Like Kevin Feige said at one point, I think they've got things planned up to like 2029 right now, which is crazy. But not surprising. I think that if DC wants to do that, they can absolutely do that. And they are definitely with the tone of their recent movies like Shazam and like the upcoming Suicide Squad. I think that they're certainly trying to make a more widely appealing slate. Not necessarily universe, but certainly slate of films. And I think that they are not necessarily trying to make a perfectly interconnected universe like Marvel, as much as they are trying to make, hopefully, just some good fun movies, as well as some really freaking awesome movies, like, hopefully, The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, and, like, what they hoped the Joker movie would be. I think it's bad. A lot of people like it. That's okay. They're wrong. And I think if they really want to, then they'll just say, yeah, we'll just pull this guy in from this one and this guy in from this one, and it's whatever. And I think that a good example of that is the Ezra Miller Flash movie, which is now going to have all these different people in it. It was originally confirmed that Michael Keaton was going to be in it, but now he's kind of being cagey about it. But it's, I don't know. I'm very interested to see where they go. If the question is, can they do it? I think that they can. If the question is, will they? I don't know. If I was them, I would just keep developing these individual projects because that's what served them so well for so long. You know, like the Nolan movies were like just incredible. I think that I've heard it said a lot of times that Batman Begins is probably the first time that someone was able to go to a superhero movie and walk out of the movie and not say that was a great superhero movie, but say that was a good film. And like, I really hope that they can continue to do that. Like, I really want these characters not to be taken crazy seriously, because when you do that, then you get the Zack Snyder stuff. I want them to be taken as what they are, and to be taken as what they are by creators who are passionate about it, not by just whoever you throw a movie at. So, you know, seeing somebody like Matt Reeves talk about the Batman, his movie, and the enthusiasm that he has for it, I'm really excited for that. So, I don't know. We'll see what comes of that. Next question from Aaron is there ever a hope for a legitimate Green Lantern movie, or has Ryan Reynolds spent too much time publicly clowning on that film that no one would ever take GL serious and or care? Well, Aaron, perhaps you don't know this, and that's okay, but there is in development a Green Lantern HBO series, which I'm really excited about. It's not going to have Jon Stewart in it, I don't think, which I find upsetting. But it's happening. It's being made, I think, by Greg Berlanti, who did all the CW stuff, which gives me less hope. But then I see Superman and Lois, and it's very good, so that gives me more hope. And then I remember that it's not on the CW and that it's on HBO, and that gives me more hope. So overall, I think I have more hope than I do less hope. So hopefully that'll be good. I don't think that Green Lantern as a movie has really soured audiences necessarily. I haven't even seen it. Just because I don't really care. Not that like I can't bring myself to watch it or anything. I just don't care about Hal Jordan, for one. I don't think he's very interesting. And I don't know. I feel like people don't really care about that movie. And if they were to make a new Green Lantern movie and the trailer was good, I think people would see it. I think DC fans would go to see it in droves if they made a really good Green Lantern movie. I think that's a character, if we're talking Hal, if we're talking John, even Kyle Katarn. Nope. Kyle Rayner. Different Kyle. As a character that I think could be done really well on screen. It could be really interesting. You could go into a lot of the space stuff. It could almost be like their Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they could have a team of lanterns go and do that kind of stuff. And obviously they're trying to make the Suicide Squad like their Guardians. You know, even more so now that they have actually James Gunn on directing it and all that. But yeah, I would love to see a Green Lantern movie. I don't know if it's going to happen for a long time. I know we are getting the HBO show. So hopefully that's good and not terrible. Cool. Let's move to Instagram questions. We're 24 minutes in. Nice! I'm going to drink some coffee. Not coffee. Hot cocoa. And I'm going to reposition a little bit. This is your invitation to drink your beverage here in the lounge. Okay. Okay. Here's a question from Mama K 68 on Instagram. That's my mom. Here's the question. What's your favorite Clint Eastwood movie? That's tough. I like Clint Eastwood movies. I don't think he's an incredible actor, but I think he plays the one character that he plays really, really well. And I think that he is a really off and on director, but when he hits, he really hits on something good. $1 Million Baby is an incredible movie. Starts out as one movie, and then, wow, it changes into a very different movie, and it's really good the entire way through. Gran Torino's very good. There's some questions about the accuracy of the portrayal of the... I don't remember what nationality they are. Hmong people? I can't remember. I probably butchered that, so I apologize. But there's questions of the accuracy to their culture. But overall, I think that's a pretty good movie. I like it a lot. I haven't seen Richard Jewell. I know that's supposed to be pretty good. It's Unforgiven. Unforgiven is easily my favorite. I love Unforgiven. Very good. Stars Clint Eastwood himself as an old man in the Old West. He is living on a farm, a little farm, with his young, 9-year-old, 8 or 9-year-old son and daughter. Oh, excuse me. Wow. His wife has passed away, and we discover by this kid coming to the farm that he, Clint Eastwood, in the past was this notorious outlaw. He was a gunslinger, and this kid's trying to come get him to do a job with him, and it's really good. It's incredibly well shot. It's incredibly well acted. It's just a wonderful movie. It's got Morgan Freeman as his friend. Gene Hackman plays the villain, and man, it's very good. One of my favorite things about this movie is that it is vaguely implied that Clint Eastwood's character in this, William Money, is the man with no name from the Dollars trilogy, Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And it works really well as an epilogue to those movies. It's a fascinating character study, and I would highly suggest that everyone go watch it. I think it might have won Best Picture the year that it came out. I don't remember, but it's possible. So that's my favorite Clint Eastwood movie. $1 Million Baby is probably the second, and it's not directed by him, I don't think, but I enjoy Trouble with the Curve, the romantic comedy that he did with, I think, Amy Adams and Justin Timberlake. It's kind of funny. He's funny in that. Next question. What's your favorite? And this is from Elena Cornwell. Elena had a few questions. What's your favorite obscure comic? That's tough. I don't know if I am a huge fan of any really obscure comics necessarily. I really like Lone Wolf and Cub. I think it's really good. It kind of has been brought to a wider audience now because of The Mandalorian. But it's really good. Do I read anything that's kind of lesser known? I don't know. I don't really read anything that's really obscure. Before the movie, the more recent movie, I would have said Hellboy, sort of. Hellboy is kind of an interesting character in that he's extremely popular, but he's not a household name. He's got this massive, massive fan base, but it's kind of underground. I would say it's a similar kind of thing to this is what I would consider for the band Rush, is that they're not one of the bands that you're going to immediately pick out oh yeah, they're one of the greats. But if you're a Rush fan, you're rabid about them. The Rush, the same thing with Hellboy. Rush, Hellboy, the people that like these characters love these characters. So while I wouldn't necessarily say he's obscure, certainly, I would say that he's definitely more of an underground fandom. So maybe Hellboy. I don't know. That's probably all nonsense, but there you go. Next question. Have you ever felt betrayed by the writers in a comic/film with how they chose to take a story? I I don't know. I think the prime example for a lot of people is the portrayal of Luke in The Last Jedi. And I get that. I think, for me, the only stuff that works in that movie is the Luke and Rey stuff. I can understand why Luke would get to that point. I think that it makes a lot of sense as a follow-up to the prequel trilogy, where it's, all about how the Jedi suck and, politics and all that. But it is certainly a strange heel turn from this character who saw good in Darth Vader, and I think The Mandalorian retroactively made that a tougher movie to watch for that reason, because we get to see Luke being Luke in the way that we hoped that he would be in that movie. And I don't know. I just I think I would say that one to a degree. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to see Mark Hamill truly come back as Luke Skywalker, the character that we knew and loved. But I understand the decision to go there and to try to subvert in that way. I think I don't know, just might have been kind of out of place there. I don't know if I have another good answer, though. Have I ever felt betrayed by the writers in a comic or movie? I don't know. Like, maybe if it was like it was a dream all along, one of those endings, but not, I can't think of anything that was like that and was like really off-putting to me. Don't know. Good question, though. Any comics that you associate with a certain time in your life? I would say kind of the what is it? The New 52 Batman, like I was saying earlier. Like I was reading a lot of that in high school, and I just really loved that. Hellboy as well. Hellboy I kind of identify with when I was working at Target. I was working my way through the third omnibus, and I would bring it to work, and I would have it, and I would read it in the break room with my frozen dinner that I would buy right before break. So that's a funny one. One thing that I always think of is My Brother and Me, the podcast. I really associate with when I was still going to college, because I would listen to it on the way there every single morning. And the same thing with the gym. Their old theme song, "It's a Departure." Excuse me. Would be like the pace that I would set for my run every morning at the gym. So that's one that I associate with a certain thing. So that's fun. Favorite type of spaghetti pasta? Well, spaghetti is a type of pasta, so stupid. Spaghetti. Okay, I'm all out of questions. Not a question, Elena. Here's another one from Esther Ponte. What made you want to start the podcast? That's a good question. I like that question. Thank you, Esther. I don't know. I've listened to a lot of podcasts for a long time now. I mentioned My Brother and Me, with the McElroy brothers, Justin, Travis, and Griffin, in oldest to youngest in that order. And they were kind of an inspiration for me to do it. Like, they do a comedy show that's really good. And at times I kind of wish our show was funnier. I wish that we did more of a comedic show. I just don't know exactly where to go with that. I don't know what our angle with that would be necessarily. Yeah. The original impetus of, is that the word? Of actually doing the show was that I went to see The Rise of Skywalker, and I was really enthusiastic about it. I've turned around on it quite a bit now. If you go listen to that episode, my thoughts are very different at this point. And then Ben went to see it, and we said, well, we should do a podcast about it. Let's freaking do it. We got all this stuff that we have from our years of doing freelance video work. We have all the equipment that we need. Let's just put a show together. It was really janky for the first, every episode so far. But we kind of figured it out. We kind of got it going. And that was pretty much the idea behind doing the original episode. The first episode was just, we love Star Wars and we want to talk about this right now. We did do another podcast because we wanted to do this for a long time. We did another one a long time back that we mentioned in that first episode that I don't think ever had a name. And it was a video podcast. And it's out there somewhere. You can find it. I don't know where, but it's not bad, honestly. I wish it was better, and I kind of liked the format of it. It was fun. It was more of a show, like a variety show, which would be tougher to do now, but it would be fun. So, yeah, I don't know. For specifically what made me want to keep doing it, why I like doing the podcast, I like putting out a show. I like putting out a product. I like doing a thing for people. Like not a lot of people listen to the show. We have an average listenership of about 25 to 30 unique listeners per episode generally, and it's generally more or less growing. But I really enjoy making the content, and I really enjoy having these conversations. And I don't know. It's this certain level of satisfaction that you can get from making something that I get from doing the show, and which is part of why I really like making things. Like I like putting things together, which is why I like drawing, I think, which is why I really am drawn to drawing, because I'm taking a piece of paper or a canvas on my iPad, and it's going from nothing to being something, which is why I really love traditional work. That it's got all this texture and this feel, and by the end of it, I've just got all these random tools and pens and pencils on my desk, which that's something I miss from now being pretty much all digital. But yeah, like that's part of why I kind of want to do like a carpentry apprenticeship. I feel like that'd be something I'd really enjoy, learning how to really just like build something, how to make something like that. Yeah, so I just like making stuff. I like making things. And I like making things for people. I like the audience interaction. I really do hope that the show grows. I don't know that we'll ever make money off of it, and I'm okay with that. I just really would like the audience to grow. I'd like there to be more audience interaction. Like I want to answer if you guys have like questions, and whatever. I want to answer them. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you like about the show, about what you think we could improve about the show, because I want to do better, and I want to make a product that you guys enjoy. Because this isn't a vanity project for me, despite what it may seem like sometimes. Like, I genuinely want to make the product that will best respect your time and mine, and that can be really difficult to parse. But I feel like we're getting there. So who knows? Okay. And Ben Earl Weber says Dungus, and today what I would say Drangus. Thank you. Let's see. Is that all of the text questions? I believe so. Where's my notes? Yes. Okay. It is time for audio questions. Here we go. First question. This is from Jamie Pringle, friend of the show.
My question for you, Marshall, is why? Just why? Just why?
Well, that's a great question. I would say it's just because, generally, just that's the way you gotta. That's the way you gotta be. 10 out of 10. Is this another one? Nah, whatever. Okay. Next question. We got 3 questions from Jacob Friend. Let's listen to number 1.
Hey there, Marshall. I wanted to ask what your favorite Quentin Tarantino movie is, and why it's Pulp Fiction, and then what you think Quentin Tarantino's duds are, and maybe some criticisms you have of him as a director.
Okay. Excuse me, I gotta take a second. I was not. I was not expecting that. That's great. Quentin Tarantino. What is my favorite movie of his? And what are his duds? And what are criticisms of him as a director? It's not Pulp Fiction. I think that Pulp Fiction is extremely overrated. I think it's fine. I don't care for it, honestly, really that much. So that's what I have to say about that. Let me look up all of his movies real quick, because I don't remember offhand all of them. IMDb. I think I've seen all of his movies. I might not have seen a couple of them. Quentin Tarantino. Okay. Director. All right. From the beginning, Reservoir Dogs. I think Reservoir Dogs is fantastic. Really great movie. It's probably in my top 3 of his. Yeah, easily up there. Pulp Fiction, super overrated. He's directed 1 episode of ER, which is hilarious. Jackie Brown I like quite a bit. I didn't finish it just because I kind of got bored. I thought it was a little slow, but I really appreciated what it was and what it was kind of channeling. I thought it was really interesting. Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, I really don't care for. The extreme stylized, over-the-top violence. It's very Tarantino in general, but I just don't really care. I don't find it that interesting, which I know is a controversial opinion, but that's what I have to say about that. I haven't seen Death Proof. Inglourious Bastards is probably my favorite of his. Yeah. Well, I think my favorite is either Django or Inglourious Bastards. I like Hateful Eight a lot more than everyone else apparently, because it doesn't get all the love that I think it deserves, but I also really love Westerns. I never watched that 4-episode thing. I really want to. The extended version. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I really liked it quite a bit, actually. The way that it kind of meandered and was just kind of a story that went wherever the story was going. And it weirdly, to me, didn't feel like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Like, I'm sure that it was full of language, but it didn't really occur to me at the time. I saw it in theaters at a Best Picture Film Festival, so I'd already been in the theater the entire day watching movies. So by the time I get to this, 3-hour movie, I'm tired. So yeah, it just kind of washed over me, which I feel like is the best way to experience this movie. It's just kind of an interesting portrait of Hollywood in the time that this movie takes place, right around the Manson murders. And it does do what Inglourious Bastards does in doing this kind of alternative history thing, where instead of Sharon... Well, I won't say what happens. But I think it's really good. His duds... I don't know. I don't know that he's necessarily made a bad movie. I think he's just made movies that I just don't care about or don't find that interesting. I think that his worst movie is better than the worst movie that I've ever seen, certainly. But yeah, I don't care for Pulp Fiction that much. I think it's got really good parts, but as a whole, I don't find it that interesting. Kill Bill movies, I don't like very much. Death Proof, haven't seen it. And yeah, the rest I think are pretty good. That's what I have to say about that. And any criticisms of him as a director? I don't know. I think that him as a person, he's nuts. I would not want to hang out with him. I think he's kind of a jerk. But I think he's an impeccable director. I think he makes movies exactly the way that he wants to, and I really respect that. And I think for the most part that doing that makes an incredible movie. I think that his advice is largely garbage. The clip that I see everywhere is him talking about, if you really love movies, if you love cinema and movies with all of your heart, then you can't help but make a good movie. It's shut up. You're stupid. You're an idiot. That's not true. Look at Tommy Wiseau. No one has loved movies and cinema more than Tommy Wiseau. And he made The Room. So that's nonsense. It's ridiculous. His other piece of advice that I find really frustrating, it's kind of right, but really annoying to me, is something about like, oh man, think of the best movie that could ever exist, and then that doesn't exist, and then make it. It's like, well, if it doesn't exist, what? And I guess I'm just not creative enough. I don't know. That one's kind of good advice. The first one is just ridiculous, though. Cool. Thanks for that first question, Jacob friend. Let's go to Adriana Taryn. Listen to one of her questions.
What movie would you want to be remade, and who would you cast in said movie?
Oh, man. What would I want to be remade? Frick. That's tough. See, because this is the hard part, is that do I want a remake of a movie that I love? Or do I want a bad movie to be remade and be better? I want to say I want them to remake, and this is gonna, don't crucify me for this, people. I want them to remake the Star Wars prequels and the sequels. And I want them to take, for the prequels, I want them to take the story that they're trying to tell and do it well and keep all the actors. I don't think that any of the actors are the problem. I think it's the script, and I think that it is, it's just 100% the script, and George Lucas's direction is not great in general. Never really has been. The best Star Wars movies have always been directed by not George Lucas. So I don't know. Maybe you would have a different director make them. The hard part then is who would you have do that? Because like all my favorite directors make these really intense movies. I'm not going to have Denis Villeneuve make. Sure, I would love to have him make a Star Wars movie. I would not want him to helm the remake of the Star Wars prequels or sequels. But that's what I would want to happen with the prequels. Is I would want them remade, and I would want the story to come through better. I want the script rewritten with the same story, but with it way more well written and put together in a way that's more coherent, so it actually presents itself in a way that makes sense. The sequels I would just completely redo. I think Force Awakens is good. I would almost just leave The Force Awakens alone and then change the later two. I would probably just give it to one director and have that person make all three. Probably Dave Filoni. What if Dave Filoni did it? That'd be cool. Yeah, interesting question, Adriana. I like it. All right. Here's Thad Funk. We'll see if this one stays in.
What's the most underrated use of a song in movie, TV, or video game promotion, or during the actual content?
Oh, that's actually an interesting question, Thad. I was expecting some nonsense. Huh. The most interesting use of... Let me listen to that again.
What's the most underrated use of a song in movie, TV, or video game promotion?
Promotion.
During the actual content.
Or during the actual content. Okay. Man. That's tough. I'm assuming that you're meaning, like, soundtrack and not the score. Oh, man. That is a tough one. What is the best use of a song? I'm trying to think of really good ones. Oh, man, I'm going to come up dry, and I hate that because it's such an interesting question. Frick. No. Jeez. gonna have to cut out big portions of silence here because I gotta think. I think underrated is tough to answer. For best, I think certainly Jim Croce, Time in a Bottle in X-Men Days of Future Past, of course, is fantastic. Really, really good. I really like all of the... There's a moment in every season of Westworld where there will be a song done classically that is like something from pop culture, like Paint It Black, I think, was one. I don't remember the others, but that's one. I don't know. Nine Inch Nails' version of Hurt, the original version, was used in an episode of Rick and Morty, and that was really good. So I'll say that one, too. That's a really good question. I might have to think about that and come back to it, because I like that a lot. Thanks, Thad. Next question. We'll go back to Jacob Friend.
Hey, it's your brother-in-law. I was thinking about a question to ask you, and I thought of this one. A lot of people have criticized the movie industry in general for shifting toward big money blockbusters in the last few years and franchises. And do you think that's the case? And if it is, do you think that doing so has also ruined those franchises?
Oh, my phone turned off. What the heck?
And do you think that's the case? And if it is, do you think that doing so has also ruined those franchises? And if not, why?
I don't know. See, that's a tough question because I think that the definition of blockbuster has just changed. I think there's always been the big summer movies, you know. I feel like I think Jaws is kind of the movie that people point to as like being the first really big blockbuster film, which is wild since it was, you know, built on a little budget. But I don't know. I think that certainly they are more in the forefront than the more filmy films, the more like snobby, independent, like whatever. But I don't know that that's necessarily the majority. That's exactly. I think that becomes the perception because that's just what's in your face the most. There's tons and tons of really good independent cinema from, tons of great studios like A24, Annapurna, what else? All those. They just make these really great movies. And they don't make as much money, but I don't know that they ever had in comparison to the bigger movies like that. I think the criticism mostly comes, famously Martin Scorsese got all up in a twist about the Marvel movies, superhero movies in general. Probably not having really seen any of them necessarily, which is unfortunate. But, and I understand his frustration. I get what he's trying to say, that, when there's 100 blockbusters and superhero movies, it takes up cinema space. So it's a lot harder for the smaller studios and the smaller movies to make money because they're just not in the theaters, at least not for nearly as long as some of these other movies will run with their theatrical runs. So I don't know. I think there's different sides to the issue. I don't know that I think that it's more prevalent necessarily now than it used to be. I think that it's just more obvious. I think that we can see it a lot better than we used to with, a streaming device in every pocket, a device that shows you an advertisement for something in every corner of the world. Back in 1970, late 70s, early 80s, whenever Jaws came out, you weren't seeing an Instagram ad for the new movie every 5 seconds, or you weren't seeing it plastered on a bus or on a billboard, or like there weren't toys, all this stuff. The consumerism of it wasn't necessarily there, probably, I would say. The consumerism aspect came later. But I don't know that it's really a shift as much as it is just become more clear. I think that there's still amazing cinema being made. It's just not as obvious and not as in your face. So, which I think is part of why I want to do this show, to kind of come back to Esther's question a little bit, is I know that is the perception. I don't want that to be the perception. I want to present great cinema to you guys. I want you to see, like, there is still great stuff. Even if it's not all modern stuff that we're talking about, I want to present great stuff to you. My nose. Ugh. Cool. Let's see. Next question. Let's go to Adriana.
Who would win in a fight? A grilled cheese or a taco?
Grilled cheese. Grilled, and why? Grilled cheese, because it's better. You didn't say what kind of taco, and so who knows? That changes a lot. When I think of grilled cheese, I think of Bagel & Joe's adult grilled cheese. So there is all kinds of great stuff on that. There is bacon, there is tomato, there is, of course, cheese, various kinds of cheese, in fact. And it is a panini, so it is a nice, crisp, melted sandwich. Oh, boy. And I don't think it can be beat by any food item. And that's a fact. That's why the day of the week that I go there every week to get one is, in fact, my favorite part of my week every single week. I love that sandwich. So think about that. Next question. Hopefully it's better and smarter and not crazy obvious like that one. Jeez.
If you had to cast your family in a remake of a movie, what would that movie be, and what characters would they be playing?
Oh, man. Huh. Now, do I choose something that fits, or do I choose something that's ridiculous? My first thought was The Incredibles, just because that's easy. I would be Dash. Bryce would be Violet. Papa Juan would be Bob, Mr. Incredible. And Karen would, in fact, be Elastigirl. The Incredibles. Boom. And Lulu would be Jack, because she is a crybaby. I don't know if there's a better option than that, honestly. Hard to tell. What if it was Star Wars, though? I would be Luke Skywalker. Bryce would be Chewbacca. Dad would be... that's a tough one. Who would old Johnny boy be? I want to say Jacob Erb. You get to be Han Solo. I don't know if it fits entirely, but I'll let it happen. In this case. Oh, well, you know what? No, Jake, you're R2-D2. Karen, Mama K, you are C-3PO. And, oh gosh, Dad, I do not know who you are. You're not Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're not Anakin. You're not Mace Windu. You're not Yoda. Qui-Gon Jinn. Done. Lulu is Yaddle. Yep. Cool. Okay, well, do I have any other questions? Oh, I have one more. Maybe. Here it is.
This is Karen, and I'd like to know, what is your all-time favorite music score in a movie?
All-time favorite film score. That is a tough one. I like Star Wars. I like Man of Steel. I think these are all quality. What is the best? I am the best. Oh, man. I don't know what the best one is, though. I think the one that I always come back to just for listening is the Grand Budapest. The one that makes me the most emotional is probably Schindler's List. Excuse me. Oh, man. That is really tough. Why do you do this to me? Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings trilogy as a whole. But I think that's the best film score. If we're talking about the one, if it's going to go along with the movie, the best film score, it's, I think, the Lord of the Rings. Howard Shore's score for the Lord of the Rings. For just listening, I don't know that I would put the Lord of the Rings. So much of it is big action and like, drums and stuff like that. But as a film score, I think that it can't really be topped. Yeah, that's what I would say. For listening, I think there are other options. Superman, the soundtrack, all the Star Wars stuff. Yeah. Cool. All right, everybody. I think that's all the questions. If you sent me a question, let me check the email real quick, see if anybody sent a question there before I give up on you all. Let's see. Where is it? Okay, I have to sign in, apparently. I don't remember the login to the email. So that's funny. All right, well, that's been the episode. I hope it wasn't terrible. I think it got better as it went on. So hopefully you can wear the difficult parts and the long parts. But thanks for chilling here with me. I hope it was good. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about yet. Hopefully it'll be more than just me. But thanks, everybody, for listening. If you want to get in contact with the show, you can email us at benandmarshallpod@gmail.com. Hopefully I can remember the login. And I'm on Instagram at mparish_art, as well as that same username on Twitch and Facebook. And then YouTube is The Great Scubdo, SCUBDU. That's where all the things are happening. And check us out on Instagram at Ben and Marshall. Do a podcast on Instagram. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you think that I should get rid of Ben forever, just send me a message and tell me, and I will. All right. This has been the podcast. I've been Marshall.